I welcome everybody to this class. In this class, I'll be speaking to pasture production and rangeland ecology management. And this is back to pasture and range production. I'll be speaking to pasture production and rangeland ecology management. As we progress, others will join us. And let me start by speaking to what is pasture? What is rangeland? They may seem synonymous, but they're quite different entity. A pasture is a deliberately planted grasses and legumes mixture, and is maintained via intensive cultivation and management. A deliberately planted grasses and legume mixture that is managed, that is maintained, that is cultivated is pasture. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Fantastic. On the other hand, rangeland is naturally occurring vast land. Naturally occurring vast land. Naturally occurring vast land, an open ecosystem containing native and natural vegetation, such as grasses, such as legumes, shrubs, among others. And its management is through grazing intensity rather than intensive cultivation. Nonetheless, while pasture is deliberately planted, rangeland is naturally occurring. Nonetheless, it does not take, when a rangeland has been designated for feeding livestock animals, for grazing livestock animals, one can still manage rangeland. That is why I'll be speaking to rangeland management. Therefore, the fact that it is naturally occurring, contain variety of grasses, legumes, shrubs, and all of that. It doesn't take out the place of management, though it is naturally occurring. So, pasture is deliberately planted, mixture of grasses and legumes, while rangeland is naturally occurring vast land and natural ecosystem containing grasses, legumes, shrubs, and all of that. So part of the management of pasture land or irrigation land, the pasture land is irrigation. Management of pasture land, you need weed control in a pasture land. Management, weed control, fertilizer application, fertility management, soil fertility management, irrigation, especially during rainy season, so that, especially during dry season, so that we can make our forage, pasture and legumes, grasses and legumes available all year round. So we must manage our pasture land. In terms of soil property, the grass and legume depends on the quality of the soil, the depth of the soil, the texture of the soil, and irrigation. The success of irrigation depends on infiltration, water infiltration, extent to which water is able to go deep into the soil and in a manner to be available for the pastures, for the grasses and legumes and other plants. So water holding capacity of the soil is important in terms of managing soil property. I am talking about management of pasture land, water management, management of the soil property, soil factor, and examples of fertility, irrigation. That is doing things that will increase the quality of our grasses and legumes. Doing things that will make our grasses and legumes to be available all year round. I can tell you, when we have rounds, in the previous class, I spoke about grazing system, grazing reserve, management of grazing reserve, grazing system, and management of grazing systems. Now I am talking about pasture that we found in our grazing reserves. Pasture, grass and legumes. The pasture we find in our grazing reserves. How do we manage them? So we manage them, we perform good control, maintain soil fertility. Then water available, irrigation. When we talk about maintenance of soil fertility, we provide fertilizer, whether organic fertilizer or inorganic fertilizer as when necessary. We manage the soil factors, soil properties. We take into consideration soil factors because the growth of the forage, the growth of the pasture depends on the soil texture, soil structure. Irrigation depends on the infiltration, water holding capacity of the soil. So now, rangeland ecology management. I've told you a range land is naturally occurring vast land containing native forage, native plant and legumes, shrubs, and all of that. Range management can therefore be defined as the manipulation of dependent and controlling factor of a range ecosystem in order to maintain equilibrium, in order to maintain the core equilibrium. Because ecological system is ecosystem, where in our rangeland, that equilibrium, there is balance in the ecological system. Because if there's no balance in the ecological system, the quality of our rangeland will be compromised. So, despite like I said earlier, despite the fact that rangeland is naturally occurring, it was not deliberately planted, but we can still manage it. We manage our rangeland. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Fantastic. So we manipulate all the factors in our ecological system of the rangeland to maintain equilibrium. That when the ecosystem is balanced, plants will grow, grasses will grow, legumes will grow, other organisms within the rangeland that are contributing to the well-being of the plant will make the rangeland rich for livestock production. Rangeland can be defined as a science and art of planning, directing range uses so as to obtain and sustain animal production. It can also be defined as manipulation and collection of characteristics of ecosystem in the manner that there will be balance, there will be equilibrium in the ecosystem to support pasture growth, quality of the pastures, and livestock production. Am I speaking sense? So importance of rangeland management. We have seen now why though rangeland is naturally occurring, but there is a need to manage rangeland so that we always maintain ecological balance. Importance of rangeland. Importance of range management. In the previous class, I spoke about grazing reserves, establishment of grazing reserves. I spoke about grazing system and grazing types and management of grazing system. So we need to manage our range too. That management of range management. One, multivarious uses. Livestock and wildlife. No, in rangeland, we have livestock and wildlife. There must be balance between the livestock component of the rangeland and the pasture component of the rangeland and other living entities in the rangeland. The balance in the ecological system of the rangeland contribute to the quality of the rangeland and the quality of the grasses of the pasture. And the quality of the pasture will ultimately contribute to the quality of the pasture available for livestock production and ultimately quality of livestock production within the rangeland. So livestock and wildlife products, meat, skin, it provides resources. It provides resources such as meat, such as milk, and skin from the animals for leather industries. And it rangeland provides means for tourism, recreation. Number two, environmental values. From rangeland, we have watershed production. Rangeland provides for watershed production. It provides for erosion control. It provides for desertification control and increase in soil fertility. So not only provision of quality pasture for livestock production, where the livestock, the animals from the rangeland will provide milk, meat for human consumption, some byproduct of the animal like skin for leather industries. But there are other advantages it's providing for the environment. The trees in the rangeland make the environment awesome. It provides for watershed protection, control of desertification, control of erosion, and increase of fertility. And what about socio-economic importance? Generation of employment for people working in the rangeland, for livestock value chain, livestock product value chain, those that are buying the milk, those that are buying meat, those that are selling meat, those that are getting employment from meat product, so that are selling from meat product. To economic importance. It provides for generation of employment. It provides income and have social cultural values. Types of range disturbance. What can cause? We have talked management of the rangeland is to create balance, ecological balance in our rangeland. When the ecosystem is balanced, the animal component of the rangeland and the plant component of the rangeland, so that the livestock that will be living, like our livestock that will be grazing in the rangeland, will have quality environment, will have quality pasture for production. The quality of the rangeland will determine the quality of livestock production obtained. Now, there are some system of rangeland that can cause this unbalance. If there is excessive exploitation, timber exploitation in the rangeland, excessive timber exploitation. If there is poaching, poaching is illegal hunting. Illegal hunting. Poaching, illegal hunting, and affect can disturb the ecological balance of the rangeland. Timber exploitation, excessive fetching of firewood, urbanization, industrialization, because urbanization can cause encroachment into rangeland. Industrialization can cause encroachment into rangeland. And that is what we are facing now in Nigeria. But part of the land which should have been designated as the rangeland for livestock production has been encroached upon by urbanization, has been encroached upon by industrialization, has been encroached upon by population explosion. Such that we do not have a designated area for our livestock production. Even in the places we have, we don't manage them. So excessive felling of fire. So all of this result in the disturbances in the ecological system. And all of this prone our rangeland to ecological disaster, such as erosion, such as desertification, such as flooding, especially in the north. We have desert encroachment, even human encroachment into our rangeland. So all of these factors destabilizes, disturbs the ecosystem, ecological balance of our rangeland, and ultimately will affect the quality of the rangeland. Type of vegetation in the rangeland. We have bushland, we have woodland, we have wooded grassland, we have permanent swamps. These are different types of vegetation we may have in rangeland. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? So so we can choose a specific type of vegetation for livestock production. And let's choose greenland, grassland. We have wooded grassland. We have permanent swamps. We have barren land. We have bushland. And the bushland contains woody plants of mostly shrubs with canopy less than 6 meters. Then a bushland. It's woody plants that are mostly shrubs with canopy that is no more than about 6 meters in height, and canopy covers more than 20%. So when you have such environment, animal will have shade to rest. At the same time, they have open places to graze. When they go to graze, they come to shade to rest. And woodland, as the name suggests, consists of woody plants to the height of about 8 meters in height. And grassland, as the name suggests, it's grasses. You see a lot of lush grasses, which can be beautiful for grazing. Lush grasses. So, depending on your goal, depending on the goal of the farmer, the goal of the farmer will determine type of vegetation he will seek for in terms of rangeland. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking? So we have bushland, we have woodland. So woodland has more woody plant than bushland. Bushland has 20% woody plant and the rest grasses or pastures. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? And we have grassland. This is dominated by grasses and consists of other herbs. So grassland will be a suitable type of vegetation in a rangeland that will be fantastic for grazing. Factors affecting rangeland production. Factors affecting rangeland production. I have spoken about factors affecting the types of rangeland disturbances. I've spoken about factors affecting rangeland ecosystem. That are factors affecting rangeland disturbances. Various types of vegetation in rangeland. And I'm speaking to factors affecting rangeland production. Rainfall, temperature, relative humidity, light, soil factor, the quality of the soil, because the quality of the soil will affect the quality of the pasture that will grow. The extent of rainfall, the volume of rainfall. So both biotic factors and abiotic factors will affect rangeland production. So I may ask you to discuss factors affecting rangeland production. Abiotic factors. We have biotic factors and abiotic factors. Abiotic factors are rainfall, temperature, relative humidity, light, soil factor, and biotic factors. Human activity. Human activity can affect rangeland production. Desertification, that is a biotic factor. Human activity, poaching, excessive timber exploitation, indiscriminate felling of trees. It can affect rangeland production. And at the same time, this factor can touch the ecosystem of the rangeland from equilibrium. And another factor that affects rangeland production, I'm talking about abiotic factor, rainfall, temperature, relative humidity, and light. These are abiotic factors. Abiotic factors. We can say human factors, like poaching, exploitation of timber production, felling of trees. That's a human factor. We have abiotic factor, like rainfall, temperature, relative humidity, light. And we have edaphic factors. And when I say edaphic factor, I mean soil factors, soil moisture, soil texture, soil structure, soil depth. All of these factors can affect rangeland production. Soil pH, soil fertility. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Fantastic. So yesterday, I spoke about various grazing systems and grazing types in grazing land or in pasture land. So the same management we are giving to rangeland is the same management we give to pasture land. The same management. The same the same attempt to maintain ecological balance in our rangeland, that's the same attempt to use to maintain ecological balance in our pasture land. What all those factors that touches ecological, that touches rangeland from equilibrium, touches pasture land from equilibrium. So yesterday I spoke about various types of grazing system that we can practice in our rangeland, in our pasture land. Rotational grazing. We have other form of intensive rotational grazing, where we will involve use of moving from paddock to paddock. We have strip grazing. Inside rotational grazing, we have strip grazing. We have deferred rotational grazing. We have continuous grazing. We have seasonal grazing, and a whole lot of them. And this I have discussed extensively yesterday. And grazing capacity. We should be able to know the grazing capacity of our pasture land and of our grazing, of our rangeland. Because the pasture capacity will enable us to have maximum optimal utilization. When we know the pasture capacity of our rangeland or pasture land, it will enable us to have optimum utilization of the resources in the rangeland or grassland, so that we will not overuse the facilities, we will not overuse the resources in our rangeland and our pasture land. So the total number of animals that can graze in a particular rangeland or pasture land without depleting the facility, the resources of the rangeland or pasture land. So we must know the grazing capacity, that is the carrying capacity of our rangeland or of our pasture land. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Fantastic. So method of range utilization measurement. A method based on, maybe we measure measurement of our utilization of our rangeland. A method based on before grazing, between graze and ungraze plots. Method based on measurement of correlation or regression of factor related to utilization. Correlation or regression. And let me explain what is correlation. Correlation is a relationship, existence of a relationship between dependent variable and independent variable. Correlation measures relationship. Regressions measure relationship, but regressions goes further to quantify the relationship. For instance, if I expose my grazeland to 10 cattle, to 10 cattle, what relationship? Quantity of the grass they will eat, or if they eat, the relation between the number of hours of grazing and the quantity of grass eaten. I may say there is 20 relation, 80% relationship between the grass they eat and good performance. Now, I've established relationship. There is a positive correlation between them. The quality of the grass and good performance. And regression will go a step further to quantify what quantity, the quantity of the grass and the grammage of the meat production. That is what regression does. So we can use this in utilization of our rangeland. Am I speaking, sir? And number 3 is based on observation of utilization and comparison with predetermined standard of utilization. Am I speaking, sir? So benefits of rangeland improvement, benefit of rangeland management. When we manage our rangeland, when we manage our pasture land, we have improvement. The quality of forage will improve. The quality of grasses will improve. The quality of forage will improve. The quality of grasses will improve. The quality of legumes will improve. The quality of other herbaceous plants will improve. There will be ecological balance that will support the quality of the rangeland, that will support the quality of the grasses and legumes and other herbaceous plants, which ultimately will improve livestock production. It's going to improve soil quality. Soil quality. It's going to take care of erosion control. Have influence of erosion control. It's going to have influence of curtailment of desertification. Erosion control, desertification control. And it's going to make our environment wholesome. So when we have a functional rangeland, the human habitat around that neighborhood will have wholesome environment. That is advantage of managing, of improving our rangeland. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Now, we move to pasture management. And all I have said about rangeland management applies to pasture land management. The advantage you will benefit from rangeland management is the same advantage you benefit from pasture land management. Disturbances, the consequences of disturbances of rangeland, will also apply to the consequences of disturbance of pasture land. And the advantages we will benefit from having ecological balance of our pasture land is the same advantage we will benefit for having ecological balance of our pasture land. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? And the question that can come again: why do we manage our pastures? We manage our pastures to increase forage production, to increase quality of the forage, to increase to provide quality grasses and legumes for our livestock. It improves, it makes our environment also. It has advantage on erosion control, on desertification, and as a matter of fact, it provides tourism. It provides tourism advantage. So the same advantage we'll enjoy from managing our rangeland, same advantage we enjoy from managing our pastures. It reduces soil erosion. Now, grazing management in our pasture land and rangeland. In our pasture land and rangeland. Grazing management. I discussed grazing management yesterday. And I said, management of our grazing, I spoke about grazing system management, that it gives us idea, it equips us as to which type of grazing system we should adopt at a material point in time. Now, grazing management systems. We must apply appropriate grazing system, grazing types at appropriate time. When you're supposed to do rotational grazing and you are doing continuous grazing, you won't have a problem. Because continuous grazing involves exhaustion. When you keep grazing your animals on a particular pasture land, over the period of time, you will exhaust all the grasses and your animal will have nothing to eat. So management of grazing system makes you to manage your pasture land, and it equips you how to manage your grasses and legumes and forage. So you will know that you where not to do overgrazing. You will know where not to do undergrazing. You will to know where you will do rotational grazing or intensive rotational grazing or deferred grazing. Am I making sense? So that is management of your grazing systems. Grazing systems and plant growth. There is correlation between the grazing system you are adopting and the plant growth. For instance, if you are doing continuous grazings, you have only one plot of land, one pasture land, or one paddock, or one area where you have your grasses and legumes, or probably your forage. And you keep practicing continuous grazing. The point will come, the animal will exhaust all the grasses, nothing to eat again. And if you keep releasing your animals to such place, they will impact the soil structure. They will impact the soil texture. A point will come, the growth of the grasses will be difficult because you have no other places to take your animals to. So they always graze on that same land. So their continuous grazing will impact the regrowth, the rejuvenation of grasses. Is that first plant growth? But if you are planting rotational grazing, you have a pasture land, or maybe properly acre of land, 1 acre of land or hectare of land. You divide them into plots, A, B, C, D. So January, you graze in plot A. February, you graze in plot B. Maybe by into 12 plots. By December, you graze in plot D, plot 12. The next, by the time you come back to plot 1, grasses will have rejuvenated. They will have grown back. You have lost grasses to feed your animals with. So rotational grazing does not allow for allow for exploitation or extraction of the grasses, overuse of grasses, overgrazing. So these are the ways where the grazing system affect plant growth. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Fantastic. So when your knowledge of grazing system, management of grazing system will help you to maintain plant growth all year round. Availability of grasses or forage to your animals. Am I speaking sense? Now, influence of different stages of growth of plants on nutrient, because the stages of as we manage our grazing system, we give allowance, we provide latitude for grasses, forage rejuvenation, forage regrowth, and abundance. So different stages of plant growth require different nutrients. So your understanding of this will make you to know if your grasses are at a certain stage. When grasses are growing, up, they need nitrogen for growth. Nitrogen for growth. When they are flowering, they need another type of nutrient or minerals for growth. So knowledge of all of this will make you have a comprehensive understanding in management of your pasture land. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Now, management of pasture land. Now, the other management within a pasture land, one, weed control. And like I said, management weed control. Number 2, soil fertility, maintenance of soil fertility. In maintenance of soil fertility, you talk about making environment suitable for soil aeration. So what is a weed? What makes a weed to you might not make a weed to me. What makes a weed to groundnut farmer, cassava farmers, might not make a weed to farmers or animal farmers or pastoralists. A weed is a plant that is growing in an unwanted place. So what makes a weed to a cattle farmer might not make a weed to a cassava farmer or a crop farmer. So even in the pastureland or graceland, we must manage them in terms of weed control. We must manage them in terms of mowing, cleaning, like cleaning when they are overcrowded. For instance, it's like all those gamba grass, elephant grass, guinea grass. When we have more tillers, you can thin and resupply. We can prune. If it is a leguminous plant, we can prune them to hold efficient growth. So mowing prevent, for instance, mowing prevent plant from becoming over mature because animals prefer succulent grasses. And succulent grasses are rich in nutrients, minerals, and vitamins. So we do not, those who need to mow, we do mowing, we prune, we trim. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Weed control, we remove in our pasture land, grasses will become weed because they are growing in an unwanted place. For instance, in my pasture land, I have grasses and legumes only. For instance, in my grazing land, I have Panicum maximum, I have gamba grass, I have Penicetum purpureum, I have Centrosima, I have Stylosanthis, I have Calopogo muconoides, and papa is growing, mango is growing. At that material position, cassava is a weed. Mango is a weed. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? And that is why you must carry out weed control. Weed control. And why do we carry out weed control? It reduces weed. The presence of weed on our pasture will reduce the growth. It reduces the quality of the forage. It reduces the quality of the forage. So by putting our animals. And if you don't practice efficient weed control, the unwanted one can overtake your pasture land, can overtake your rangeland. At the end of the day, you will not have desirable pasturage to feed the animals. So that's the consequence of having weed. Consequence of having weed in our rangeland. Consequences of weed in the graceland. Of weed in pasture land or graceland. In pasture land or rangeland. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Consequences of having weed on our grassland. On our grassland. So it will impair forage growth. It will impair the quality of our forage. It will impair the yield of our forage. Ultimately, it will reduce animal yield. It will reduce livestock production because the weed and our forage will be competing for the same nutrients in the soil. So if you're able to eliminate the weed, then we'll have abundance of nutrients for desirable plants to grow. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Weed management. We have weed management. We have cultural method. In cultural method, that is general thing we do. The general management we do by mowing, grazing, controlled grazing, overseeding, and improving the fertility of the soil. Chemical control, use of chemicals, Roundup, we have contact and systemic. Contact herbicide, use of chemical, use of herbicide. Contact herbicide, and the herbicide you spray on your weed, on touching the weed, it destroys the stomata, and the plant won't be able to receive, won't be able to synthesize, to perform photosynthesis, and to dry off. It destroys the stomata and it dries off. That is contact. Example is Roundup, Gramazole. Or you can use systemic. Systemic is you spray it on your weed. Even the first day you may not see anything. Second day you may not see anything. On the third day, you begin to see that your grasses begins to turn yellow. Your grasses begin to turn yellow. Systemic works by going to the root to disrupt the root structure from tapping nutrient and water, and naturally it will die. That is weed management concept. And soil fertility management. I have spoken to soil fertility management, where you will apply fertilizer, organic or inorganic, where you allow your soil to rest. You do not allow for overgrazing. Soil testing. So when the soil is healthy, the grass, you have higher quality of grass that will be produced from such quality, fertile soil. And when you realize that your soil is not fertile, you can do soil amendment, you can do soil fertilization. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? So healthy forage recovers more rapidly from grazing. Healthy forage provide, if your soil is fertile, you have high yield of forage, you have high quality forage, you have high yield forage, you have healthy forage, you have nutritious forage. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? So then part of soil fertility or soil maintenance is fertilizer application. Now we want to speak to grazing habit. Different animal has different grazing habits. Grazing habit is different from one animal to another. Am I speaking sense? The way goat graze is different from the way sheep graze, different from the way cow graze, or horse graze. For instance, like I said in the previous class, Goat is a browser. Goat is a browser. It moves around the grazing area. It moves around the pasture land. It moves around rangeland, picking grasses of choice. That is browsing. It doesn't eat anything. It picks grass of choice. Yesterday, I spoke about forward grazing. Forward grazing as a system of grazing. And I said that in forward grazing, two group of animals are involved. You may have a lamb, a sheep and lamb. You realize that the lamb would feed on succulent grasses. So when you graze lamb and the sheep, lamb and the ewe, the lamb will graze on succulent grass. Then you can later release bigger animals. For instance, cattle. In fact, where sheep graze, after moving, they will not consume all of the animal, all of the grasses. The cattle will come thereafter behind and clear the remaining grasses that sheep did not eat. That is forward grazing. Because we have forward grazing because of different feeding habit of our grazing habit of our animals. Grazing habits of our animals. For instance, horses eat 90% of forage. Cattle eat 70% of forage. Sheep eat 60% of forage. Why goat eats 20? And I told you, goat is a browser. Horse eat 4% of wheat. If they don't see the grasses of choice or legumes of choice, they can feed on any grasses they see, any wheat they see. They eat wheat because grasses of choice or legumes of choice or forage of choice, so to speak, is not available. They feed on whatever they see. So in that sense, horse eat less wheat. Cattle eat more wheat, which is 20%. Sheep eat more wheat, which is 30%. Goat eat lesser wheat, 20%. And I told you, goat is a browser. In terms of browsing, horse didn't browse, doesn't used to browse. Horse doesn't used to browse. Horse buffer 6%. Cattle 10%. Sheep 10%. Goat 60%. And that is why I used to tell you that goat is a browser. So grazing habit informs grazing pattern. Grazing habit informs grazing pattern. And grazing habit will inform your choice of grazing system. It will inform your choice of grazing system. And grazing habit, like I said, informs grazing pattern. Cattle graze for about 8 hours per day. Sheep graze for about 7 hours per day or less. Goats graze about 6 hours per day, and horse graze about 12 hours per day, because horse is a grazer. When horse is like a bulldozer, when horse begins to graze, it's bulldozed, and it takes time to graze. So it's grazing about 12 to 16 hours per day. So the grazing habit, which informs grazing pattern, and will ultimately inform grazing system to adopt. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Having said that, I want to speak to the water requirements of our animals. If we are raising our cattle for beef, they require about 10 gallons of water per day. If it's for dairy, for milk production, 30 gallons of water per day. And let me explain to you. All of this knowledge will equip you to be able to manage your animals. You have known their feeding pattern, grazing habit, you've known the water requirement. Let me ask you, as a dairy farmer, why does a cow takes more water? A dairy cow takes more water than beef cattle. And answer is simple, because of the physiology of production. Dairy cattle is for milk production, and you need more water, which take part in milk production. And that is the reason, because of the physiology and reproductive physiology of dairy cow, because they produce milk, so they need more water. That's why a nursing mother takes a lot of water, because water takes part in milk production. Sheep, it takes a lot of 1 gallon of water per day, or take 8 gallons per day. But above all of them, dairy cow takes our largest number of water per day, 30 gallons of water per day. And in our grassland, in our pasture land or rangeland, we have some sacrificial area. Sacrificial area that would designate to keep animals. This area, we don't care about what happens to the grasses. They hit the grasses, they mess up the place, they trample on the land, they destroy the stock structure, they destroy the stock section. We always have a sacrificial area. We have to hold our cattle. It's better than to hold cattle. If you have done, if prevention, you engage in rotational grazing, and by miscalculation, you exhaust all your grass. You may return your animal to sacrificial area. While you hold them there, they feed on the available grasses there, you support them there, while you allow the exhausted plot to regrow. So, in sacrificial area, it protects pasture from damage, other areas from damage, or you don't want the animal to encroach to other areas, so you keep them in sacrificial area. The sacrificial area protects other pasture area from damage. Sacrificial area are subjected to heavy use, heavy exploitation, destruction of soil structure, destruction of soil texture. It helps to, and in sacrificial area, we keep animals in sacrificial area so that we don't overuse our grazing land. When we take them to graze, we bring them back to sacrificial area, so that we prevent soil, we minimize soil compaction on our grazing land. So in your pasture land, you must have sacrificial area. Now, pasture seeding. How do you provide seed to perpetuate, to sustain, to maintain our pasture land? So seeding is the process of providing seed, taking care of seed, producing the quality seed for perpetuation. So if you want to, we need seed to establish new pastures. We need seed to replenish exhausted pasture. So new pasture converting a crop field to a pasture. So we need seed. How do we provide this seed? We need seed to establish new pasture. We need seed to renovate, to replenish existing pasture. We can do partial seeding and complete seeding. And when we are doing pasture seeding, the following are the things we have to put into considerations. Are we doing complete seeding or partial renovation, partial seeding, complete renovation? It depends on the impact of grazing on the pasture land, on the rangeland, or pasture land, so to speak. So the impact of grazing will determine whether we will do complete renovation or partial renovation. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Now, there what we call no land cultivation or no-till seeding. In no-till seeding means that there will not be physical activity on the soil. There will not be cultivation on the soil. There, we use chemical herbicide to do the weeding. We use herbicide to do the weeding, and then we plant our seed. There, we will not disturb the soil structure. We will not disturb the soil texture, because land cultivation tamper with soil structure. So when we are doing seeding, we may do no land cultivation, meaning that no field seeding. We use chemical application, we use herbicide, and for weed control. We take care of the weed with herbicide, and then we plant our seed. We have land cultivation before seeding. In this, we will do land clearing, we will do land tilling, we may do plowing, we may do harrowing, then before we now plant our seed. But this has an advantage. It provides an enabling bed, a soft bed for our seed to grow. It removes stumps. Because if we do land clearing, we now do plowing, we do harrowing, we pulverize the soil. Then the stump will have been removed, the stones will have been removed, the rock will have been removed. Then it will provide an enabling bed for our seed to grow. So it has its own advantage. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Fantastic. So the following are the considerations we put into place before pasture seeding. Animals should be removed from that pasture land, from the pasture land, before we do seeding, because we can't be grazing the animal at the same time, and we can't be planting seed at the same time be grazing the animal. It's effort in futility. It's like we're pouring water in a basket. So the area we want to seed, whether complete or partial, either we want to renovate, whether complete or partial, we will do what? We will suspend grazing in such an area, and we'll go on with our seeding. So animal will be removed. Overgrazing will not be allowed, because overgrazing affects successful seeding because of disruption of soil structure, soil texture, and other soil properties. So new seedlings needs time to grow. They need time to develop and to establish their roots. And not only that, they need time to grow, one, to develop, two, establish their roots. And you will need time to store enough energy in their root system for regrowth before grazing is done. Because they won't be mature for grazing. When you have done seeding, your plant has grown, you must allow them to grow. You must allow them to develop. You must allow your grass, your forage to establish its root, so that they'll be able to withstand grazing pressure. If this is not done, grazing pressure will destroy the plant and they won't be able to regrow. So if this is done before introducing grazing, then they will have capacity to regrow. Grazing pressure will not exterminate them. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Fantastic. Now, forage and pasture. What is forage? Generally, grasses and legumes are forage. Grasses and legumes are forage. So forage is found in the pasture. Grasses and legumes is guided as forage. Types of forage: grasses. Grasses. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Now, grasses are a source of energy. Grasses provide energy for the animal. They come in different forms. They come in different shapes. We have low-growing grasses. We have tall grasses that we can cut and carry, like gamba grass, like guinea grass, like elephant grass. They are cut and carried. We have creeping grasses. We have creeping grasses. We have medium-height grasses, which we can either use for grazing or cutting. We can graze on them. We can cut them again. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Grasses generally produce very high. Grasses are high yielding. When you cut them, they regrow very quickly after cutting. Even when cut to the ground, the grasses are high yielding and they grow very fast. So you have no different type of grasses. We have creeping grasses, we have tall grasses, we have medium height grasses. And another component of pastures forage is legumes. Legumes produce protein. Legumes produce protein. But legumes do not grow so rapidly the way grasses grow. While grasses supply energy, legumes supply protein. So grasses form the bulk. It's form the bulk of the feed for animals, because it's the larger component that supply energy. But protein, while legumes supply protein. And what are the examples of legumes? Stylosanthes gracilis, Calopogonium mucunoides, Centrosema pubescens, and a whole lot of them. And I want to show you some grasses. These are star grass. We have giant star grass. These are common around us. These are common around us. It is star grass, or better still, it is called giant star grass. It is common around us. We have signal grass. We have coronavia grass, and we can find this around us. Pangola grass, we can always find this around us. Napier grass. These are familiar. This is Sitania grass. This is Johnson grass. These are available around us. This is star grass. I have shown you earlier, just star grass. I'm sure you used to see this, isn't it? You used to see this around. Even in front of the faculty, you can find this. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Fantastic. You can find this. Legumes, another component that make forage. So when you hear the term forage, what comes into mind is grasses and legumes. Legumes are broaded leaves that convert nitrogen from here into protein. So legumes achieve sort of protein for our animals. So in their nodules, they have nitrogen fixing bacteria that convert atmospheric nitrogen within their cellular system to protein. So the nitrogen in forage legumes can improve soil fertility. In fact, they convert atmospheric nitrogen into soil nitrogen. The way it works is they have knobs, rhizobium. They have knobs on their roots. A reddish nodules, like balls, like galls, that convert atmospheric nitrogen into soil nitrogen. When it's converted, the plant now uses it. So anywhere you plant legumes, it improves soil quality. It fixes nitrogen into the soil. And if you do crop rotation, you plant legumes in this plot of land this year, the next time you plant any other crop, for instance, maize, you will do far, far better because the previous planting of legumes has fixed nitrogen into the soil. And our soya bean is legumes. Our beans is legumes. Legumes are susceptible to frequent defoliation. We have 3 legumes. We have 3 legumes. A couple of 3 legumes is Andropogon gaianos. Andropogon gaianos is an example of 3 legumes. They are rich in protein. They have deep-seated root system. Even in dry season, they flourish because they have deep root system. Common legume, like we have legume, Stylosanthus gracilis. We have Centrosema pubescens. We have Calopogonium mucunoides. We have this one is an example of legumes. We have Madre de Cacao. We have Madre de Cacao. You see the tree, it's a leguminous tree. We have Madre de Agua. This is Centrosema pubescens is popularly called central. These are common around us. These are Calopogonium mucunoides. If you go to the front of the faculty, you're going to see all of this grass, all of these legumes. Calopogonium mucunoides. That is citrobins, ceratrobrins. This is stylo. This is Stylosanthus gracilis. That is Stylosanthus gracilis is popularly called stylo. This is Verano stylo. This is another type of stylo, another species of stylo. Now, I want to ask the question: why do we just use grasses? Why don't we just use grasses for animal production? Saying that they grow very fast, they are high yielding than legumes. Why? And the answer is not far-fetched because then grasses only produce energy, while legumes produces protein. So the bulk of the diet is grasses for animal grasses. Am I speaking? So the protein content of grasses is very low compared to legumes. So grasses is rich in energy, low in protein. Legumes is rich in protein, low in energy. So the combination of the two makes good diet for our animals. Advantage of forage. Advantages of grass. I've spoken to that before. Advantage of having grassland, forage, having forage on our pasture land, on our good land. It's erosion control. Erosion control. It mitigates. It protects our soil from direct effect of erosion. It improves soil fertility. It makes our environment wholesome. It provides food for animals. It curtails desertification. 3 legumes. We have 3 legumes. And I give an example, Andropogon gaianos. In a controlled environment, it provides firewood, fuel. We can use 3 legumes as a fence, as live fencing. We can use 3 legumes as live fencing. You can use tree too as live fencing. We can use the tree as source of fuel. We can use them as manure, green manure, and feed for animals. They both improve soil texture, soil fertility. They make our environment wholesome. I'm talking about forage now. Soil improvement. We can use that for soil erosion control. We can use that for weed control. Where you have grasses, it will be difficult for weed to grow, except creeping grass. It's as shown in this picture. creeping grass, it will not give room for any other grass to grow, because they will take over the environment with control. It reduces labor requirements, and they provide better feed for our animals. Legumes cover for weed control, they improve the structure, they improve soil structure, they improve soil texture, and they provide feed for animals. Legumes live for meal production. You can sell them for sort of income, and they provide a better feed for animals. Fencing requirements of animals in pasture land or in grassland or in rangeland. Goats. When you want to do fence for your goat, but goat is a stubborn animal, so about 1.5 meters tall. Sheep is 1.1 meter tall. White cattle is 1.5 meter tall. So you can use a barbed wire. You can use live fencing using trees or using trees. Example of the trees, leguminous trees. Because when we plant leguminous, it is advisable to plant leguminous tree for live fencing, for demarcation, because we can easily cut the trees to feed our animals. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Fantastic. So, ratio of animals per hectare of grass of pasture land or a rangeland. Goat, for instance, 1.7 ratio, 1 to 7 ratio to 10 ratio to 10 hectares of land. 1 to 7. It can be 1 to 7 ratio, 1 to 8 ratio, 1 to 10 ratio. You can have, if it is sheep, 1 to 7 ratio, 1 to 8 ratio, 1 to 10 ratio. If it is cattle, 1 to 1 ratio. So all of this is informed by the carrying capacity. It will have an understanding about the carrying capacity, grazing capacity of our pasture land or our rangeland. Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? Am I speaking sense? So with this, I have come to the end of this class. I have come to the end of this class. Thank you for giving me your time. I can only find you, Mr. Taka, in this class. It's been a long way. It's been a long way. It's been a long way. And I appreciate you for always showing up anytime I call you for class. I was given 7 courses to teach you. 7 courses to teach you. And I felt I won't do justice to all of them before exam. So I mandated myself to walk along with mind that exam will start next week. So if peradventure exam didn't start next week, then you'll be on good ground to read and prepare very well for exam. So I'm going to package all of these lecture notes, and forward to you and share with your classmates. And possibly by Friday, I may give you a test. So, but I'm going to interact with Dr. Kanayo and see how I'm going to administer my test. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time, and God bless you. Thank you.